We're taking a look at Plebby Quest, The Crusades, a lighthearted but challenging turn-based political sim with a few different game modes to keep things interesting. It's available on PC via Steam for $19.99 and also on Xbox Game Pass for PC. It originally came out in April of 2020 but just received a major update yesterday. Plebby Quest's scenario mode takes humorous jabs at the elite, beautiful, religious, and many more as it follows the story of an aloof prince being thrust into power at a moment's notice. The game also has a free play mode where you can command and conquer as you will, and a brand new third mode called Land of Chaos that was added yesterday, along with a new mechanic called Blessings and Curses. For more news on the big update, you can skip to the timestamp on screen now, but first, let's get to my review to find out if Plebby Quest is worth your time and money. Hey guys, it's Cody with Indie Game Pulse, where we bring you the hottest indie games with the coolest memes. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you can be sure not to miss another indie game review or countdown. Thank you so much for your support. I was given a review copy of this game, but have done my best to stay objective in my critical evaluation. I'll start my review by saying that my friends do not describe me as a political or strategic person, and political sims have never really been my jam. But there's something different about Plebby Quest. Maybe it's these sarcastic and witty jokes being thrown around, or the simple but affable characters that made me sink 4 hours into a campaign without blinking an eye. Quite simply, it hooked me in and I didn't want to get out. I'll set the scene for the game, and I think the context will make a lot of this review make more sense. The game is called Plebby Quest, The Crusades because it's set in the early 1000s during the religious crusades. Many of the countries and fictional characters in this historical parody have religious motives behind their expansion and foreign affairs, so keep that in the back of your mind as you watch the review because it comes up very often in the gameplay. For a beginner to the genre like me, the game starts nice and slow with the prince's handler delegating tasks to the prince and helping you to find where each action is located and the benefits of those actions. For instance, you can acquire troops from the boot camp, but you then have to train and upgrade them in your personal barracks. And if you have other generals to command, you can also upgrade their troops and swap them in and out as you need. Each general you control typically has a certain type of soldier that is either granted a bonus under him or is more easily trained under his leadership. This can be a great way to start crafting your military strategy, but it doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule. But the game doesn't just throw all of this information at you at once. Instead, as the calendar progresses each month, your steward may teach you another new lesson in the way of text conversations. These were usually humorous and made me understand the tension and awkwardness between the helpful steward and the prince who can't be bothered to talk about anything besides his glorious good looks. However, the game is pretty front-loaded with text, and especially at the beginning of the game I really started to feel like I was just clicking through some longer conversations so that I could get back to learning the game. It took me about 45 minutes to really feel like I had a handle on the mechanics and understanding the turns, but after that the game seemed to flow much more smoothly. Once you've taken all your actions for each month, then each other country will take their actions. I also felt like this part of the game was a little distant and didn't affect me for most of my playtime, or really for the first 2 to 3 hours, but then the action started to pick up and actually affect me and my country and became a lot more interesting. Throughout the game, you have the opportunity to form alliances and strengthen relationships with other nations by sending liaisons or ambassadors, and you also have the chance to trade with neighboring countries who favor you as well. You can also go the opposite route and declare war on your neighbors and start forcibly trying to take their goods. I know I've focused mainly on the actions and features as they pertain to the military in Plebby Quest, but there are also many religious activities that you can complete too, like sorting books at the mosque or temple to gain research points to then advance your country's skill tree. Or you can work with the relic hunter Indy to find an ancient artifact. Just another example of how cheeky this game is sometimes. Really, the 3 areas you need to balance are military, foreign affairs, and religion, and they are all intertwined and connected very nicely. During my time playing, no one category felt overpowered, and I constantly had to go back and forth between different sectors to make sure I had all my bases covered, as much as I could at least. Plebby Quest also does a good job of moving and working in other countries so that their problems or expansion also become your problem, and it's another way that the game stays fresh. Neighbors declare war on you before you even feel ready, and then you have to quickly figure out your strategy. There are just so many facets to the game that I feel like I'm missing, but I also don't want to get bogged down in the nitty-gritty details. The game overall plays very smoothly, and I never had any frame rate or graphical issues. The control scheme is also very simple, with left click or spacebar cycling through most on-screen actions, as well as progressing through the conversations. You can use the numbers as shortcuts for opening your general commands, but this was a little cumbersome that you had to back out of one to open another. It's a pretty minor complaint for a game that otherwise feels very well optimized. And lastly, let's talk about the art and music. The world map and interaction graphics are really nice to look at, with sort of a Settlers of Catan feel to the play area, but the characters, I don't even know what to say about them. They're just silly. The characters are little outline boxes with different faces, but they're still usually easy to distinguish, and during conversations they're animated and fun to watch. Whether they're shaking with anger or hiding their face in shame, the emotions are clearly conveyed, and I grew to love the animation style pretty quickly. The soundtrack also gives off a jovial yet grand air, and it blends in nicely with the theme of the game while not being obnoxiously silly or light. It really seemed to trigger in my brain during the intense battle sequences, and just reminded me of your typical war music. Now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, let's talk about this huge update that just came out yesterday. Essentially adding, in my mind, 50% value to the game, or even more in terms of replayability.
Oh my god! Wow! Oh my god!
First off, the new game mode called Land of Chaos brings you 7 new map types. Not 7 set maps, but randomly generated maps with randomly generated countries and placements, and then you get to choose which country to control. To me, this is a major upgrade to the game and continues to keep the game fresh and interesting 8 months after its initial release. The map that I chose to play, each country started with only 1 tile occupied, and then over time expanded outward and created borders. It was a lot of fun to try something completely different and a new kind of challenge too. On top of the new map types, there are also new blessing and curse cards which you can choose at the beginning of each new game. You choose between 3 sets of 4 blessings, and then you can choose to be granted that blessing, essentially a starting bonus, but you have to beware because it also comes with a permanent curse should you take certain actions in the future. You can also choose not to accept each blessing, thereby eliminating the curses as well. I really like this addition to the game, as it, in a sense, gives you some additional guidelines to how you should play. For instance, I received 1 free research category at the beginning of my game, but then had to be careful not to denounce other kingdoms in the future, or a hardship would be brought upon my kingdom. I like that the wording is vague, so it gives a sense of foreboding, but also kind of wanting to do it just to see what will happen. Overall, the update is a big deal for players who have been around since the beginning, as it freshens up the game and keeps it lively and fun. And for new players like me, it means that the value proposition is now so much higher. You're getting so much more game for the same price as before. So the question is, should you play Plebby Quest: The Crusades? I would highly recommend it. If you're looking for some variety in your indie game playlist, and especially if you enjoy more of a lighthearted strategy sim. If you're not sure if you like strategy or political sims, I think this is a great entry point, or even a gateway game. It opens up all the doors for you early on, and then gradually lets you take the lead as you learn and grow in the game. And at the price of $19.99, you get a lot of gameplay. I've already spent 5 to 6 hours playing the campaign and the new Land of Chaos mode, and I haven't even finished either game. I don't even think I'm close, actually. The new update adds a ton of replayability too, so cost-wise, Plebby Quest is definitely worth it. For the hardcore political sim fans, this might be a little too light, but variety is the spice of life, and I think Plebby Quest is just a lot of fun and worth taking a look at. Thank you so much for watching my review of Plebby Quest: The Crusades. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe so you can be notified when I publish my next indie game review, and let me know in the comments what you think of Plebby Quest, whether you've played it or have been thinking about buying it. I'd love to hear from all of you out there. Thank you to each of my 65 subscribers for your support as well. For more indie game reviews and countdowns, check out the videos on your screen now, and I'll see you on the other side.